Good morning. Well, we are still tired from the weekend, but our aim today is to get this room completely clear.
Most people. Today, we're diving into the remarkable story of Dan Preston, a figure who has captivated many in what's affectionately known as the Chateauverse. Our insights come from a conversational deep dive into everything Dan Preston, a source that unpacks his journey and impact. If you've ever found yourself intrigued by chateau restorations on YouTube, you probably know him as the quiet, incredibly hardworking Brit who took on the monumental task of rebuilding a burnt-out ruin in France with his own hands. So, who exactly is Dan Preston? He's the creative force behind the popular YouTube channel Escape to Rural France. Dan first gained internet recognition as the hot gardener and handyman on Stephanie Jarvis's channel, the Chateau Diaries, which documents life at Chateau de Lalande. He was often seen in the background, fixing things, cooking, and serving as a practical counterweight to the often chaotic and luxurious atmosphere of Lalande. Eventually, he outgrew that sidekick role. He then made a decision that many would call incredibly bold, perhaps even ill-advised. He bought his own property, Chateau de Chaumont. This purchase was arguably one of the most challenging in the history of French real estate. It was a roofless, floorless ruin, completely gutted by a fire in the 1980s, with trees growing right inside its walls. His channel now meticulously documents his solo mission to rebuild it, and it has absolutely exploded in popularity, often surpassing the very channel that initially brought him to prominence. Now, even for someone as generally unproblematic as Dan, drama is almost inevitable within the tight-knit Chateauverse. Viewers sometimes call this the T. One of the biggest shocks for longtime followers was the quiet end of his relationship with Annalise, with whom he originally moved to France and has 2 children. For a period, she simply stopped appearing in his videos, which led to a lot of speculation. Dan eventually addressed this briefly and respectfully, confirming they had separated but were amicably co-parenting. Another rumor concerned his departure from Lalande. There were whispers of a falling out with Stephanie Jarvis, often considered the queen bee of the Chateauverse. Fans scrutinized every interaction for signs of awkwardness. However, the reality seems much less dramatic. He simply outgrew his role as an employee and needed to devote his full attention to his own colossal project at Chaumont. There was also what fans termed the glow-up. Dan underwent a noticeable physical transformation, getting his teeth fixed, often referred to as his Hollywood smile, and becoming significantly fitter due to the grueling construction work. While this sparked a few cynical comments about him going Hollywood, most people simply saw it as a positive change. Let's look at his background and family life. Dan hails from the UK, specifically the Hampshire area. Before moving to France, he worked as a chef and a gardener. What makes his rebuilding efforts even more impressive is that he isn't a trained architect or mason. He learns everything as he goes. For quite some time, his living situation was extremely challenging. He lived first in a static caravan on the construction site and later in a Mongolian yurt, enduring freezing French winters while trying to construct a roof over the chateau's empty shell. He's also a dedicated father to 2 young sons. While he understandably keeps them mostly out of dangerous construction zones and off camera for privacy, he speaks about them often. He and Annalise appear to have established a very mature co-parenting arrangement in rural France. Now, let's talk about YouTube and his earnings, because this is where Dan has truly excelled. His channel, Escape to Rural France, is a true powerhouse. Unlike many other chateau channels that might focus on tea parties or expensive fabrics, Dan's videos are gritty, often ASMR-style construction content. It's essentially just one man, a trowel, and a drone documenting the painstaking work. While exact figures are private, Dan is undoubtedly one of the highest earners in this niche. His AdSense revenue is significant, with videos regularly attracting hundreds of thousands or even millions of views.
During peak periods, his monthly ad revenue is likely in the $10,000 to $20,000 range or even more. Beyond that, he boasts a massive Patreon following. His fans are quite literally funding the reconstruction of the chateau, essentially crowdfunding the resurrection of historic building. Just to be clear, we're not talking about Minecraft billionaire rich like another YouTuber named Preston. Dan is more comfortable construction rich.
Dan is doing more than just creating entertaining videos. He's actively saving history. Chateau de Chaumont was considered a lost cause. After a devastating fire in 1986, it was left to decay for over 3 decades. Without Dan, it would have eventually collapsed completely. The building also holds significant historical importance. It was once owned by the heir to Coco Chanel, but more crucially, it served as a safe house for Jewish children during World War II. By rebuilding it, Dan is preserving a tangible piece of resistance history. As of early 2026, within our current timeline context, Dan has made incredible progress. The shell of the chateau is largely secure. He's been heavily focused on the immense task of reinstalling floors and the entire roof structure, transforming a hollow shell back into a building with multiple levels. He continues to navigate French bureaucracy and battle the elements, but the ruin looks less and less like a ruin with each passing day.
Dan Preston truly embodies the hold my beer success story. His journey demonstrates that with a combination of perhaps a slight ignorance of how truly difficult the task will be, combined with sheer stubbornness and determination, one can literally move mountains, or at least many tons of limestone. He stands as an antidote to the superficial influencer, a person who builds his content and a chateau with sweat, mortar, and a very dry sense of humor. If you found this exploration of Dan Preston's work compelling, please share this episode with someone you think would also enjoy it.